goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Cottinge, and my fellow co-hosts and filmmakers, John and Elaine Woolscroft.
And everybody just stopped listening.
So,
Oh my God.
I was going to say
held the mic like 10 feet away from my face.
Yeah.
I was like, that's gonna, yeah.
I was going to say, like, our audience was just like, well, fuck this.
Everyone hates us. I have a feeling at least 4 people jumped.
God,
And we're like,
probably.
what the fuck?
we should have made that the entire episode. We should have done that for 3 hours. Who's in?
Listen, we tried doing a inside joke episode with the Freddy Got Fingered episode. And Frodrick. And I don't think it landed on everyone the same way we intended. So
It's fine.
Go back and listen to our episode on the award-winning cinematic achievement called Frodrick Got Fingered. But this week we're talking about another film from around that time, and that is Mars Attacks. We're on episode 174.
Yeah, our another addition into our pantheon of Really That Awful?
Yeah.
Really that awful?
Really that awful? Mars Attacks? One, I think that this movie, a lot of people forget. Really forget this movie exists.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Well, the thing is, with Tim Burton, you remember his early ones you loved, you remember the later ones you hated, and this falls into that area right in the middle with, like, Planet of the Apes and Big Fish that people just don't remember.
Well, I would say that this is closer to that. I would say it's his Silver Age, if you will.
Yeah.
Like, this is his Silver Age. I'd say Planet of the Apes and Sleepy Hollow. Those are your shit Bronze Age stuff. But I would say
Sleepy Hollow. I think it's an homage to Hammer movies, and I think it's great. Debate for another day.
That's a debate for another day. But
You guys
no,
play nice.
I think Mars Attacks and Ed Wood, especially since they kind of come back to back, they're just part of that Silver Age where you still get a lot of the things you really loved about Tim Burton, but you can also see where the future is going.
That's fair.
Like, really, you could see where the future is going. Not so much with this movie. I think with the next film he does, which I think that was Sleepy Hollow, if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm.
I have him as IMDb here. Yep, Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
3 years later.
It was 3 years later. Yeah, it was 99. But I think this movie a lot of people forget. This movie and Ed Wood. I think a lot of people they then discover Ed Wood and they're like, wow, I didn't know this movie came out. And it's like, yeah, because it's in black and white, and Hollywood has told us that black and white movies you don't watch.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Ed Wood, just pause this.
Go watch it.
Go watch it, and then come back and subscribe to us and comment and
Yeah, we'll
tell
be
us
here.
how great we are.
We'll be
here. Yeah,
we'll be here 2 hours later. That movie, I think people discover this Silver Age of Tim Burton from that movie, and then they completely skip Mars Attacks. Because I never hear anyone talk about it.
It's true. And I personally, I love Ed Wood. I think it might be my favorite Tim Burton movie, but I had never seen Mars Attacks until we saw it for the show.
My favorite would probably be Batman '89, but I would say Ed Wood is his best movie. But
really, John? I didn't know that Batman '89 was your favorite.
No, you didn't know?
No, you didn't know. I love... Now, here's the argument that you always get into with Tim Burton is, what's your favorite Tim Burton movie, and then what's your favorite movie directed by Tim Burton? Because I would say Batman '89 is his best movie directed by Tim Burton. But honestly, I would say Edward Scissorhands is probably his best Tim Burton movie.
I see what you're saying.
Because that is 100% him.
Fascinating distinction.
You know? But anyway, we're not talking about Scissorhands or Batman '89. We're talking about Mars Attacks, this little gem from 1996 that has one of the biggest ensemble casts of characters.
Seriously, like no joke.
Like,
Lane and I were
crazy.
We were talking about this. Some of these people became famous kind of after the fact.
Or way bigger after the fact.
We retroactively say this is a huge, like Sarah Jessica Parker, Jack Black. Both of them were not huge stars at this point. You know,
Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman wasn't
not
really that
famous,
big of a
really.
deal at all.
Yeah, and like all three of them,
And
in
Sarah
different
Jessica
ways
Parker-
became huge after the fact, but like they weren't popular then. Like it's
No.
retroactive, huge. I mean, there's Jack Nicholson, Glenn Close, and Annette Bening. So the movie does have a bunch of stars for the time. But
Sarah Jessica Parker was definitely steadily working, but Sex and the City wasn't even a thing yet.
No, but
And that was the
but
big thing
just,
for
like,
her.
The depth of actors that you have in this movie. You've got Jack Nicholson playing 2 roles. You've got Annette
Which
Bening.
was so weird.
Annette Bening, Glenn Close, Pierce Brosnan, Danny DeVito. Like, it's insane. And yeah,
back of all time, Jim Brown.
yeah.
Tom
Pam
Jones.
Pam
Tom Jones
Grier's
is
in
in
it.
it.
Pam Grier's in it as well. I mean, it's insane the level of actors that you have in this, and they're big actors.
Tom Jones, guys.
Tom Jones, I know, right? I know, right?
Tom Jones, it ain't unusual.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact that this movie didn't do well when it came out is just kind of shocking.
Yeah,
I kind of get it. You know, this was a strange movie.
it was released December 13th, 1996. It made, or its budget was $70 million. It made $101.4 million, and I think I saw online that its promotional budget was like $25 million.
Jesus.
So theoretically, it made a profit. Theoretically,
Didn't make a ton of money,
I think
though.
you have to make at least 50% more than your budget for them to consider it a success.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, it ended up making like $2 million more than it cost to make and distribute. You know,
Yeah, that's not good. And I think what hurt this movie the most is the fact that Independence Day came out the same year.
I could see that.
I really think because I look at it as this is the other end of the spectrum, and when it comes to the quote unquote space disaster movie, like Independence Day is the 100% the best space disaster movie you're ever going to get. And when the best space disaster movie you're ever going to get comes out the summer of this movie, which honestly you could say that this is a mockery of the space disaster movie, although I don't think that they were playing off of each other at the time. If anything, I think Mars Attacks was like, well, people are in the mood for space disaster movies. Why not do this funny one that we already were planning to come out? But I think that people were in the mood for the more serious take and not really in the mood for what this is.
But Brian, best space disaster movie. What about Attack of the Clones? I saw that. It takes place in space and it's a disaster.
But
That's a joke.
he's
You had a joke
he's
there,
full of
Mr.
zingers.
Mr. Joke Time Joke Maker, sir.
I called up Bruce Valanche for that zinger.
We're so old.
That was in between writing drafts of
We're
the Star
so
Wars
old.
Christmas special.
yes.
We're so old, guys. It's so
yeah,
hurtful.
before we get too deep into kind of a defense of it / explanation of it, I like to do a little bit of our usual and really that awful with the okay, we get it.
Yeah.
So I have on this list number 1. It's a scattered mess of a movie. It is just all over the place. There's no real lead character. We just join people randomly. Some of the jokes don't land. We spend too much time with some people, too little time with some people. Like the structure of the plot seems all over the place. So I would say this movie is kind of a hot mess.
No one's overly likable either, which is always something that hurts a movie for me.
I don't know. The Richie characters, you're like him. Yeah. He's the only character that's likable, but he's kind of
doofus.
He's a doofus. And like the only saving grace is like he's just kind of the oddball out from all of these wacky characters. Like his parents
Right.
are wacky, his grandmother's wacky, his brother Jack Black is insane. You know, and he's the only person in this entire world of insanity that is just like, well, I gotta take care of grandma.
Yeah, I think it's hard to ground yourself on a character like that, though, when they're also surrounded by very unrelatable characters.
Yeah.
On that note, with these characters, number 2, the humor is all over the map. Some things land, very few, some don't. And hot take, Tim Burton, if you're listening, which you aren't, you're not funny, dude.
Oh.
You are not a funny person. You're weird.
Well, I think that right there, that describes his sense of humor. Yeah. It is rooted in this dark, macabre weirdness that is Tim Burton. So if you view everything through the lens of this dark, macabre weirdness, some of it is going to land for some people. Like, there are some things in this that I do find the humor funny. But then there are some that's just like, that's kind of bizarre. And the thing is, it's like, I noticed that a lot of this humor, it's the same in Batman Returns.
There's a lot less sex jokes.
Well, there's a lot less. No, there's a lot less sex jokes, but just some of the way that these lines are delivered, and some of the way that the quote unquote jokes in Batman Returns are delivered, they do kind of mirror Mars Attacks in some of the ways. Like I automatically think of the scene where Max Schreck is talking to the Joker on the stairs, and he's trying to convince him to run for governor, and he's just like, the amount of poontang that you could get, and he says it kind of under his breath, and you're just like, is that supposed to be like a joke? Like, but it's the same sort of delivery as some of these jokes in here. They just don't land.
I don't mean to be odd, because I don't want our audience to... Brian just misspoke. He said Joker, but it was Penguin. But it was just...
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I did say Joker. I meant Penguin. Sorry.
I just don't want people mindlessly in the comment section being like,
"He didn't say he's right character. Fuck them."
Not being a correcty pan.
Correct. I'm sorry. I'm only on one cup of coffee today. Okay,
it's totally fine.
Yeah.
Well, and two, I think one of the things that I really noticed about this, because obviously I just saw it as an adult, but the humor, I don't think I would have found this funny at all as a younger person, but as I've gotten older and more hateful, like, my humor has like skewed way more towards gallows humor.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would have found it as funny if my humor as a human being now wasn't so fucking dark.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think what's interesting about this is it's a kind of a commentary on, the question of what would you do if you saw that life from another planet was visiting us.
Right.
And there's always this kind of separation where you've got some people who are like, blow them up, they're going to kill us. And you've got these other people who are like, no, we can learn so much from them. And they're peaceful. And it's just funny how both of those sides get portrayed and mocked in this film.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's really interesting. That part I do find interesting. So I know that's not part of the we get it, but I'd say that's a plus column.
Gotcha. And we will get there.
Oh, yeah.
We kind of talked about this one, so let's just skip over it. No one is likable and everyone is odd.
Yeah.
And number 5 here, I have it drags.
Oh, yeah.
There reaches a point where it's like, just zip it up. Come on, Tim.
Oh, yeah. The third act is way too long.
Let's just go
way
home.
too long.
Yeah, yeah. Plus, there's some side stories in this that I just don't give a shit about. Like, I don't really care about Pam Grier's whole story.
And her kids.
Kids. I don't care.
It's a weird choice.
I don't even care about Byron's rescue thing, to Lake Tahoe and the Tahoe Caves. I don't really care about that. I don't really care about them.
Yeah. And then lastly here, this is kind of vague, but why? Why does this film exist?
Wow, John, that's really...
Well, here's the thing. I got a little...
existential.
I think here's my answer to that. I think that... One, I think Topps gave Warner Brothers a giant bunch of money. And I also think that, they looked at the design of the Topps cards, because what some people don't understand is that Mars Attacks was a very successful pop and pulp, like card
Trading
series,
cards,
like
yeah.
trading cards. So like
If
the
you grew up
design
with the X-Men
Yeah.
cards and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so the characters themselves, like the Martians, not talking to the people, those already existed. But
Right.
ultimately what this movie did was try to flesh out a narrative for those characters to exist in. And I think they said, well, look at the design of these, and that looks kind of weird, like Tim Burton. Why don't we give him the reins of this thing? So I think that's probably what happened. But I also think that this came at a time when Tim Burton really was looking at kind of his weird period piece section of time. Because, Ed Wood takes place in the 50s. And this, even though it takes place in contemporary times, I think kind of has a little bit of that late 50s, early 60s atomic age hysteria thing
I kind of buy that.
going on.
Oh yeah, it's definitely an homage to it came from outer space.
Right. I mean, the
yeah.
titles of this film absolutely have that mimic of those sorts of films. So I think he was trying to move towards that. And whether it's successful or not, we'll kind of leave that up to our viewers. We'll chime in, but I think that's why this movie exists, because he wanted to do something that was goofy. He also wanted it to kind of fit in with the time period films that he was making.
But is this a love letter or is it a satire? Because there are times where it seems
I think it's both.
I don't know if you can have your cake and eat it too. Like it seems like part of him hates these movies and part of him loves it. It seems like he feels superior to the subject.
That's
Well, yeah.
and that's
Yeah,
the problem
I
I
think-
have.
I think so,
that's
too.
that's the problem I have with it, because if you do want to have a love letter, that's fine. Like and you do love something, but I felt zero love.
It reminds me of Shaun of the Dead as compared to Team America. Shaun of
Yes.
the Dead is a love letter to what they're doing. Team America is shitting all over like Michael Bay and and Roland Emmerich and
And
things like that.
Thunderbirds.
And yeah, so like it's there's one way to go and then there's the other way to go, and it seemed like Tim wanted both at the same time.
Yeah, I would agree with that, John, because I think like in this one, you don't really feel the love, but I don't know, it's not necessarily as like sharply satirical. Maybe it's just not as successful, as something like Team America, because you can laugh at me and say, oh, well, Team America, but that's a very successful satire.
Yes.
Even though it's like puppets, it's actually very sharp. It's very clever. And
It's almost like the people in Michael Bay movies are puppets.
oh, you blew my mind. And that's not just because John and I watch Team America every year on the 4th of fucking July. America.
Well, you have to.
America.
Yeah.
America. But it is, I think, a very clever film. And in this one, I don't think that they had either enough to say or enough love to give to do either of those things.
Good way to put it.
No, I think that's accurate. I think that honestly, Tim Burton tried to do both. I think honestly, I think that's what he tried to do, because as I said, there's mockeries in this of the characters in those late 1950s, early 60s films that you're just like, okay, so you love it and hate it at the same time? Like, is that what you're doing? I think it's also the fact that it's scattered all over the place is kind of hard to follow what his motivations are.
Yeah, because I feel like if Edgar Wright came in and Simon Pegg were like, well, we're above George Romero, then Shaun of the Dead would have been crap.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, but no, they were like, oh my God, we love him.
Yeah.
Why we wanted to be in movies and so therefore it was like this beautiful love letter. Like,
Yeah.
I feel that Tim Burton's like, well, they were inspiration to me when I was just a child, but now I'm this great artist and they're silly. I don't read
Wow.
I don't read comic books, but they let me make Batman.
Yeah, I'm sensing that you really don't like Tim Burton.
I used to love the man.
John's been hurt. Okay.
Yeah, I've been hurt.
You've been hurt.
It's so funny when you're like 9 years old. You're like, "Well, he's so dark and mysterious. He's a stark, mysterious genius." And then you're like, "No, he's just a weirdo." When you get older, like he's just a Hollywood weirdo.
I will say, I do find it interesting that you can kind of we tried to gauge what type of time period these movies come out for Tim Burton. Like what is it the Silver Age, the Gold Age? Really, you should just kind of gauge him by what woman was he having sex with, because that's quite literally how you like. This was his
Lisa Marie
period, you know, and then there's a little bit of bleed over in a couple of years because that's the start of his Helena Bonham Carter phase. But also you've got Lisa Marie in there too, because they were both, kind of in an affair during that time, during Planet of the Apes.
Can someone please explain to me why so many women want to bop him? Like, my God.
Because he's so weird.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
He's so mysterious and he's rich.
Don't get it.
Yeah.
And powerful.
Don't get
Because
it.
for a while he was like the biggest director of all time. But Lane and I were talking about this. I don't understand how, because Planet of the Apes was the kind of crossover between Lisa Marie and Helena Bonham Carter. And the thing is, Lisa Marie was a human and Helena Bonham Carter was an ape. And the thing is, she spent majority of the time on that set.
No, Lisa Marie played an ape too.
Okay. But
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen it. But Helena Bonham Carter was in ape makeup probably 90% of the time. And Tim went, I got to get me a piece of that ass.
Wow.
I mean, I'm sure he knew what she actually looked like, but he fell in love with a monkey.
Well, yeah. I mean, I always found it the same question, Lane, that you were bringing up is, why do they fall for him? What is it like? What is it about him? And I really think it's just his money and his weirdness.
I mean, I'm not trying to be shallow,
if
but
you love a gothic carrot, he's your thing,
listen, I'm not trying to be shallow, but you see a picture of that dude. Do not tell me that dude smells nice. Like, he just doesn't.
Well, back in the 90s, he didn't look the way he looks now. Now he's got some city miles on him, okay?
I guess.
He's a Bucky Beaver looking guy. I think he could chop through wood with the chompers. But.
Yeah, but it's interesting that he puts the women he's having sex with in the movies.
I keep waiting for that big break when it's like, oh yeah, all you have to do is get through the phone call with Tim Burton. It's like, hi Tim. It's like, Bucky Beaver, huh, motherfucker? Damn it! No!
Oh God. He'll just be like, John, I was gonna hire you to be my cinematographer on this movie, but Gothic Karen, huh? Is that what you're saying to me about me?
You think you're funny, motherfucker, and you think I'm not?
Yeah, you got some good jokes, but no, my jokes are better.
Yeah, like, Tim, I would have thought you would have found that funny, but you don't know what humor is. Let's jump into a little bit of defense and explanation.
Okay,
here.
cool.
Brian, you hit on this, but I think we should head back to it.
Sure.
This had the unfortunate time of coming out the same year, 6 months after Independence Day, and the thing is that it was not on purpose. People, you got to understand, pre-production and shit like that takes forever. So you can't be like, Independence Day came out, let's get a movie out in 6 months.
No, they were probably working on this movie in 94 or 95. I mean,
technically speaking, they were working on it in the 80s. I saw.
Oh yeah.
And the thing is, like, the original director dropped out, and then another director dropped out, and the script was being rewritten, back and forth. And it eventually, when Tim got a hold of it, they actually made it. But the movie was technically in pre-production for like a decade.
Yeah. So I really think that hurt this film tremendously. I think that when you have a big budget movie like Independence Day come out and become a cultural film. I mean, that movie, I remember that summer. Independence Day took over that summer. Without a doubt. The summer after that was Men in Black. But, I really think that Independence Day kind of set the groundwork for people's expectations of an alien disaster movie that took a serious tone and honestly gave us visuals that we had not seen in an alien disaster film since.
So many splodies.
Oh yeah, but what I'm saying is, when you've got that as fresh in people's minds, and then you meet it with this rinky-dink kind of throwback to alien movies before it, I mean, it people aren't going to go rush out to see it because they're already thinking, well, I want Independence Day, and this isn't it, like, at all.
Well, I did read a lot of people at the time did incorrectly think that this was a send-up of Independence Day.
Yeah.
And the thing is, at that time, and I mean, not that people have really turned on it really that much at all, but at that time, Independence Day was like the coolest,
Yes.
Oh, dude, how many times did you see Independence Day? 5. Yeah, loser. Let's go 10 times.
I watched it till my eyes bled.
The Fresh Prince is my god.
Yeah, but it's true. Like, a lot of people, younger people aren't going to remember that this Independence Day was massive. It was massive.
And I don't think a lot of people probably were like, well, I don't want to go see something making fun of Independence Day because I love Independence Day.
Right.
And if you think that that's what that movie is, you probably are going to avoid it.
Yeah.
But Brian, you had just kind of mentioned this, so you're like one step ahead of the henchman here. But
Oh my God, that was amazing.
But I don't think that as many people back before the internet days, and I know we had Windows 95 at this point, but it was basically just to download a picture of Gillian Anderson topless. It took 3 days.
It's true.
For me, it was David Duchovny wearing nothing but a teacup.
Oh.
Really? That was your thing.
He's so gross now, but man, like I was watching the
He was
pilot.
gross then.
I was watching the pilot of X-Files, and I was like, David Duchovny, no, but like I would definitely hit Fox Mulder.
Fox Mulder would hit you. It's funny because Fox was kind of a sex pervert too.
And a weirdo.
Yeah. What kind of guy watches porn and not jerk off? Like, that is a scary person.
I am afraid of that
is
person.
a
It's
scary
true.
person.
Yeah.
It's true.
But people think Pee Wee Herman's weird because he jerked off in a place where you should be jerking off.
That's a guy you
I
can
would
trust.
be scared if he was in that theater and not spanking it. I'd be like, what's wrong with you?
That's a guy
I
you
just
can
came
trust.
in here to watch the plot, eat my jujubes.
It's
Catch
like,
up on
oh
the
yeah,
white
I got my milk duds. Gonna be watching this plot. This is a serious plot here. That
Wasn't he yanking on his milk duds?
He was yanking on something.
His red vine.
Oh God.
Wow, loved it.
Oh, we could make penis jokes from the concession stand all day, but let's move on. But yeah, in the non-internet days, I don't think as many people got the referential homages and humor and references. Did I say that twice? I don't know.
Referential and
yeah.
references, yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, sorry, folks.
It's okay.
I've had no coffee.
It's early.
But yeah, I don't think that that came across because I will say this, like, as much as Tarantino was like the biggest movie maker in the world when he did Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, I think people just thought those movies were cool. I don't think they got the references.
No.
His postmodernist style.
You're absolutely correct, John. I mean, the thing is that the internet has basically made all of us experts in pop culture. I think that's the truth of it is we consume pop culture so much at a level that didn't exist back then. I think you had like your small sect of people, like you'd have your comic book nerds or you would have those film nerds who just like, they lived at the video store, but that was a very, 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 very small section of the society. Whereas now we can all look at, any movie that Tarantino puts out and be like, oh yeah, that's like from the 70s or it's from the 60s that he's trying to reference. And, we know that because we've seen all the clickbait that comes out saying, hey, this is what this movie is representing, which we didn't have that back then.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, so people that would get the references are probably in their mid-50s and they're not going to be going to this movie. And like the young audience, his like 16 to 25-year-old demographic are going to just be like, well, why does the ship look stupid?
Yes.
Why do the aliens look dumb?
Yes.
This is an Independence Day. Because they're not going to get it. They're not going to know. The aliens are supposed to look kind of crappy, and the ships are supposed to be funny looking, like they were in the 50s movies and stuff. The Area 51 ship, as I like to call it. But yeah, nobody got that. And, we had mentioned it earlier, but I really think that Sleepy Hollow is Tim Burton's homage to Hammer films. And
I can see that. It's not as successful as some of his other movies.
but I think for years people didn't realize that, and then I mentioned that people go, oh, yeah. So I think that was a problem for it. But I saw this as one of the things about the movie that I thought was very fascinating. The film was considered a box office bomb in the U.S., but generally achieved greater success both critically and commercially in Europe. And
okay.
So what that says to me is people in England, and guys, if you're listening in England, feel free to tell me if I'm wrong, if I'm simplifying, but they like darker and meaner humor without, and it doesn't have to be redeemed. It's just, like watch The American Office and then watch the UK Office.
The UK Office is pretty
it's very
unforgiving.
different. And the thing is, like the Michael Scott character in the American version, he's redeemable. He makes mistakes, but he has a heart of gold. Where, the character in the original version is a fucking prick.
I think that's a common thing with not maybe it's just British humor. But I think there's something to that. I mean, I watch the IT Crowd, if you've ever seen that show, and that's
Heard of it.
It's considered, I would say, probably lighter in tone than the British Office is. But there are characters in that show that you're just like, they're wacky and ridiculous, but they're also somewhat horrible. So they're you're not supposed to like them. And I think what maybe the closest thing we have to that in this country would be It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. That's the only thing I can think of where you've got characters that are hilarious, but are
completely
horrible.
unredeemable.
Unredeemable. Yeah.
And I don't know if it was because Dolphy Hitler's, just dropped all them bombs, on them, and they just made them like
What?
kind of
Dolphy Hitler.
and it just made them kind of like
That's a new
harder
one.
edged.
That's
Yeah.
a new one for you.
And I have.
But I'm sorry, Lane. Just to finish the point here is that this movie it's dark. Everyone dies. Nobody's overly likable. It's kind of sad. I mean, it has a happy-ish ending at the end, but like it's kind of a mean-spirited movie, and that works better in Europe than it does in the United States. But
I have a question for you then. Do you think this movie would do better now in a post 9/11 world?
Yes.
Because I think we're meaner now. I think we
Yes.
have a
Yeah, I
better
do.
affinity for that kind of humor.
In that way, I would, but I think I don't know if in today's, maybe we've come far enough now where it's enough in the rear view. But,
Yeah.
But I don't know if humoristic apocalypses work after a post 9/11.
I'm not even saying like 2006 this movie comes out. Like that's too soon, but I'm saying like around this time.
I think it would. I really do. I think
Thank you, Brian. I think so too.
the reason I think it would is mainly because of the fact that, at the time this film came out, comedy was what? Jim Carrey, for the most part. It was slapstick. That's what that's the taste that people wanted.
Mel Brooks had his renaissance with
Adam
Robin
Sandler.
Hood's Dracula,
Yes.
Yeah, Adam Sandler.
But that's the level of humor. There was not much to it other than, Jim Carrey talking out of his ass. And that's not, here's the thing. We're not crapping on that. But we're just saying that that's the time period. That's where the humor was. I think nowadays humor, because of our society, because of how dark things are, humor has evolved to be a bit more mature.
Yeah.
And I think some of the darkness that we see in Tim Burton that comes out through his humor is something that we probably would appreciate more now than then.
That's fair.
But it's it's interesting because I know we're not literally saying it would be the exact same movie, but this movie is very cutting to 90s mentality.
Oh yeah.
And it's so funny how they thought like, oh no, PC culture is destroying the world, and that Ellen is admitting she's gay. It's funny how we look back and how dinosauric 1996 was, but back then it's like, oh no, it's all these hippy dippy liberals like making their PC culture, And in this movie, I know everybody is portrayed like, you know, the go rah-rah, go get them with violence people and the pacifists are both portrayed as stupid.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, Rod Steiger, the rah-rah, go blow him up, he was actually right.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's saying that like a fascist mentality is correct. And if you believe in peace and listening to each other, you're just one of these Bill Clinton voting, veggie eating, Seattle coffee drinking, you know, soybean loving losers. You know,
Yeah, it's true.
Although I will say, it has the best visual pun for Rod Steiger's death.
yeah.
Like literally, you couldn't write that any better. He's such a loud, obnoxious person in this movie, just screaming, "You've got to nuke them now!" And his death is he gets shrunk while he's shooting. "We're the United States of America," and he just his voice gets shrunk down so tiny.
He's
and
got
just
that
gets
big
stepped
dick
on.
energy.
I know, but it's such a visual pun that I love.
Yeah. He's got that big dick energy, and he's shooting his two dicks in his hands, and then he gets
and then he becomes a tiny little dick.
Yeah.
I will say this, of all the humor that didn't work in this movie, I did find it absolutely hysterical that the French were stupid enough to like basically like try to offer a peace to the aliens and just got blown.
Oh my
'Cause
God.
Of course the French would. We want to go back to eating our cheese, you know. We surrender. Let's make a peace agreement. And then they're just blown to pieces.
And he's like, "Francois, what are you doing?
Get out of there.
Get out of there." Well, speaking of which, can we talk about Jack Nicholson?
Oh my God, please, can we?
If we
So,
want to
like,
talk about redeeming aspects of this movie,
I'm
I
kind of
love him in this.
I'm kind of mad because John told me before the movie started that he was in 2 roles for this, and I kind of wish that you would have just let it go to see if because he has like that southernish kind of accent or whatever.
I want the car filled with every type of alcohol known to man.
And like, I kind of wish he would have just let it go just to see if I would have noticed.
Yeah, because he does have the big, you know, the cowboy hat, the big Stetson. He's got the sunglasses on, so it could.
Galaxy's gonna be the biggest
I think-
hotel on the strip.
Good one.
Wow, Brian. Nice. I think it would have taken me a minute, guys. I really do. I think it would have taken me a second because, I mean, I would have thought, what asshole would want to be in a movie twice, right? You know what I mean? Like, I think I would have been like, what kind of ego does it take to want to do 2 roles in the same film?
Jack Nicholson sized ego.
Guys,
Listen.
not 2 roles. Jack Nicholson, and they've said over the years that it was a joke, but that's just a cover. He said, "Tim, I'm gonna play everyone."
Every male role. He wanted to play every male
and
role.
Tim's like, "I think that's a joke, but I don't know what humor is, but a good one." And he went, "No, I'm fucking serious."
Don't know.
And I think the compromise was, I'll let you play 2 people instead of like 15.
Instead of 15.
I want to play every role because that's what I do.
See, I think I would have loved this movie more if Jack Nicholson was every male lead. And they didn't even try to disguise him. Like, the scientist version of him was just him with his hair slicked back in a pipe. And he looks exactly like the president.
It's funny. I mean,
You
like
wouldn't
I
even
said,
know which character it was at any given time.
like I said, I don't think I would have noticed, guys. Not at first. And then I would have been like, is that fucking Jack Nicholson again? And then John would have just burst out laughing, probably.
I guess for me, I just love the fact that you're getting 2 different versions of Jack Nicholson in one movie.
I know.
You're getting a more restrained version of him, kind of what we see in a lot of his dramatic roles as the president.
And you got the unhinged.
And then you have the Joker
Yeah.
in you know, the casino magnate role, which is just fantastic.
See, I got a theory on this because he comes off kind of Beetlejuice-esque. And so I think in '89 they were at like lunch and he's like, hey Jack, have you seen my movie Beetlejuice? And he goes, no, what's that like? He's like, I'll show you. I got a print of it. And they put on Beetlejuice, and I bet he's like, well, good job. But he's thinking,
Good job.
You want to out Jack? I'll show you. Someday I'm going to make a movie, and I'm going to do Beetlejuice. Show you, bitch. Because I kept waiting for Jack in this movie to go, it's showtime. Had the same voice, the same mannerisms, but yeah, that character, because Lane and I obviously just rewatched this in preparation for the show. He has no point and then just dies.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
that's what I mean with some of the side stories in this. Yeah. They're unnecessary. And I mean, I think the reason why he's in there, one, because Jack Nicholson said, I want to be in this, is really more for Annette Bening. It's not more or less for Jack Nicholson's character. It's more for Annette Bening and the Byron to kind of have that for whatever reason quintessential Las Vegas casino magnate in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it doesn't really make much sense. Like, it's like, well, why are you here?
Yeah, I love
because there wasn't even no punchline. Sorry, Lane. There was no punchline of like, oh, everything that he's been. I mean, I guess you could say like, oh, he's been building up for this big thing and ignoring what's going on around him, and he paid for it. But like, there's at least give me some kind of like some lesson to learn through a punchline of his death instead of like literally just during his pitch meeting he dies.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say how much I love Annette Bening in this, and I feel like that is kind of like the thread that keeps him in that. Yeah.
You ain't got no wheels.
Yeah. Overall, with this thing, when we talk about really that awful, like this is a very extreme show. So I would say that this movie has a lot of problems. It's certainly not in my top 5 or 10 Tim Burton movies, although I don't think he has 10 good ones. So maybe it is.
Wow.
But
Yeah, he doesn't have 10 good ones.
No. But I cannot sit here and say that this movie is awful, that it deserves some of the reviews it got, that nobody went to see it, that nobody remembers it. Like I will not say this movie's awful, but I'm not giving it like an endorsement or recommendation. It's definitely one of his weaker ones, and it was a sign of things to come.
Yes.
Like you said earlier, Brian. So I will say movie not very good, but I'm not going to say it's awful.
I will say that this movie, it's really hard to define it. I think that if you are a completist, if you want to say that you've seen every Tim Burton film, this one should be one that you see, and I think there is some appreciation we can have for it now. I think some of the humor lands a bit more now than it did then, so that's something to it. But where I think it has its major faults is in plot threads that are all over the place. And I think there might have been some attempt to try to join those plot threads so that there was some continuance where it's more or less about these characters all dealing with the same situation, which is Mars attacking our Earth. But I don't think it's completely successful. But there are some things about it that I really do enjoy. I do love Jack Nicholson in this movie. I think every one of the ensemble casts in this do the best job that they can with the script. And that's something, that's saying something. I don't think anyone is phoning this in. I didn't see anyone in this who was phoning it in. So I think I'd say it's not as awful as it's made out to be. I see a lot of hate for this movie. But I don't think it is nearly as awful. I'd say watch it, but just understand that this really, in my opinion, is the turning point for when we get good Tim Burton to when we get bad Tim Burton.
Alice in Wonderland, Tim Burton.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Tim Burton.
Where every movie has Johnny Depp in it. This is the turning point.
I can't believe he wasn't in this in some way.
Yeah, well,
He was supposed to be, wasn't he?
Well, I guarantee you, the Michael J. Fox character was supposed to be Johnny Depp, and he got busy.
Well, for me, what I think is interesting is they worked with ILM on this film, and I remember somehow in the 90s there was some commercial for, I don't know, maybe it was to be a filmmaker or to be in digital arts or something, but I remember that scene of Sarah Jessica Parker being on top of the dog's body.
Yeah.
And I remember that being like kind of cutting edge at the time.
It was.
And we saw it like a couple of nights ago and I was like, oh my God, that looks like shit.
Well, I mean, I can't, really judge VFX
Right,
from
but I'm saying
1996. And
but I'm
with the eye
saying
of
for
now.
the time, it was great at the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think Tim Burton hates Sarah Jessica
guys,
Parker.
guys, I'm like doing a thing and
She's
like
doing her thing. Let her do her thing.
I'm talking about my stuff now. It's my time.
Lane time.
It's Lane time.
How long have you been here? Sorry. All right. Go.
But I just remember like seeing that in the 90s and I remember seeing that advertisement and that being, kind of a real pervasive image. So I think even though they look so strange to us now, I think it's interesting that this was on the cutting edge of a lot of technology at the time. And I have to say, maybe I'm just a dark asshole, but I'd never seen the movie before. And when they have that big ceremony and they're coming down and, we come in peace and then they just fucking slaughter everybody. I just started laughing. I thought it was awesome. I guess I'm just a dick, but there were moments that I just thought were just really funny in this movie that were dark. I'm usually a big stickler for story. That was no difference here. I did think the script had a lot of problems, but I was certainly entertained. I agree with you guys that it was too long in places, and the third act, like I wanted that big cane to just pull Tim Burton off of the stage.
Play him off, Johnny.
Like God bless. I mean, just get out. But yeah. So I mean, for me, I had no expectations going in, and and just it was interesting to see this. It felt like a time capsule almost.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that was interesting for my viewing experience. So I certainly wouldn't call this really that awful, but certainly not one of his most successful. But like I said, the curve on Tim Burton is kind of intense. So
That's fascinating. You say a time capsule because it's like it was, and when it came out, it was a time capsule of the 50s, and now it's a time capsule of the 90s.
Yep.
But, yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, so I would say this one is not like it's absolutely awesome and you guys are idiots like we did with Cable Guy. But I would say yeah, this one gets a begrudging pass.
It's not that bad.
It's really not that awful.
Yeah, it's not that awful.
It's not that awful.
It's not that great. but
It's not
that
that awful.
No.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Well,
That
good
was
talk,
fun.
gang.
That was good talk. Yeah. We don't really get to talk about Tim Burton nearly as much. So, although we did do
Yeah.
that like retrospective on him.
It's true. We talked about him quite a bit then, but
Yeah.
but this is good.
This is good. Cool. So, Lane, where can they find you at on the Twitter machine?
I can be found at LA_craft.
Okay, John.
You can twat all over me at the Unreal J Wolves.
Twat all over him.
And our Martian friends out there can send their hate mail to @BrianCoddington. I'm also at the Psycho Show page. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram @Psycho Show. You can also find us on the Epicast Network at epicastnetwork.com. If you have a favorite movie or question you want to throw away, or did we, hurt your feelings over Mars attacks, you can contact us at cinemapsychoshow.com. Make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, and we will see you next time.
There's no way aliens ever come in peace.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Epicast.